Hello everyone, welcome to the another lecture of Atomic Structure and Chemical Bonding class 9. Myself Suman Singh. In the last class we have discussed about the ionic bond or electrovalent bond, right? Now in the today's class we will discuss about the covalent bond or covalent molecules, right? So what is covalent bond? In the last class when we have seen the ionic bond, at that time we have noticed that ionic bond is formed due to the transfer of electrons, right? But here covalent bond will form due to the sharing of electrons. So we will see that if we'll see the definition of covalent bond, we can define like this: a chemical bond is formed between the two combining atom by mutual sharing of one or more pair of electrons. Okay, it is formed by the mutual sharing of one or more pair of electrons. It is called what? Covalent, or a molecule or a molecular bond. Okay, and the compound formed due to this bond is called what? Covalent compound. Okay, now we will see in detail about this. So we have seen that the molecule formed due to the sharing of the electron is called what? Covalent bond. Okay, or it is also called as covalent molecules, right? So which of the elements will give covalent bond? So generally when you will see the covalent bond is generally formed by non-metals. Okay, because non-metals, we know that when we were discussing about the atomic structure, at that time I have told you, right, that the metal has a tendency to give electron but non-metal has a tendency to accept electron, right? So that because of that only we know that non-metals have either 5, 6 or 7 electrons in their outermost shell, right? Except in the case of carbon, which has 4, and hydrogen, which has 1, right? So what will happen, since they have these atoms, or we can say that the atoms of such element do not favor the loss of electron, right? And because of the energy consideration, and thus what they will do, they will transfer the electron. What we can say, thus the transfer of electron is not possible. Okay, so therefore these compounds are can complete their octet by mutual sharing of one or more pair of electrons. Okay, since they are not able to transfer its electron, so what they will do, to complete its octet, they will share the electrons with each other. Okay, now how this sharing will take place, we will discuss about this. Okay, we know that each atom contributes equal number of electrons. Okay, so whenever a non-metal combine with another non-metal, they attain a stable configuration. We have discussed about stable configuration or octet rule, right? Now the sharing of electrons take place between these and between their atoms, and the covalent bond is formed. Okay, now one example is there in the example of HCl. Example of HCl. So we know that this hydrogen is what? It is also a non-metal. Chlorine is also a non-metal. Okay, so what will happen here, this hydrogen will share one electron. Okay, share its one electron with this chlorine. We know that in the chlorine there are 7 electrons in its outermost shell, right? So what will happen, this hydrogen will share one electron with this chlorine, and in this way what will happen, the octet of chlorine will be completed, and as well as the octet of duplet of hydrogen will also complete. Okay, as you can see, let me write it clearly. Hydrogen, we know that, right? Hydrogen has one electron in their outermost shell, and chlorine has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 electron in their outermost shell. So what will happen, to complete its octet, since chlorine has a tendency to accept electron, it will not be able, it is impossible for chlorine to give its electron, right? And in the same way hydrogen has also has a tendency to accept the electron. Okay, so what will happen, since he can't give its electron, or what we can say that he can't donate its electron to chlorine, so what they will do, they will just share its one electron with this hydrogen, will just share one electron with this, and we can see that when he will share one electron with this, there will be an octet of chlorine will completed, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 electrons will come in the outermost shell of chlorine, right? So octet of chlorine will also complete, as well as duplet of hydrogen will also complete, and they will form a compound called HCl. So this type of compound is called what? Covalent compound. Okay, and the bond which is formed between these two compound is called, between these two elements or between these two atoms, is called what? Covalent bond. Okay, so I hope you have understood this. Now next is type of covalent bond. So when we talk about the type of covalent bond, there are three type of covalent bond. One is what? Single covalent bond, another one is double covalent bond, and the third one is triple covalent bond. So what is single covalent bond? So single covalent bond is that bond in which there will be only one pair of electrons, means one electron will be shared by each element or each atoms. Okay, single covalent bond means suppose this is hydrogen and this is hydrogen, this hydrogen will share one electron and this hydrogen will share one electron, means what? There will be a sharing of one pair of electrons. One pair means two electron. Okay, always remember that one pair means two electron. So in single covalent bond there will be a one pair of electrons. As you can see, a single covalent bond is formed by the sharing of one pair of electrons between the atom. In each atom contribute one electron, means one electron is contributed by each element. As you can see, in the case of hydrogen, one hydrogen is contributing one electron. In the same way, this hydrogen is also sharing one electron, and the bond which will form between them will be a single covalent bond. Okay, so I hope you have understood this. Now next one is, as you can see, so many example of single covalent is there will be the example of Cl2, this is the example of HCl, this is the example of NH3 ammonia, and this is the example of CH4 methane. So here you can see each one electron is shared by, here also one electron, one electron is sharing, here also chlorine is sharing one electron and hydrogen is sharing one electron. In this case also, with this hydrogen, nitrogen is sharing one electron, with this hydrogen, nitrogen is sharing one electron, with this hydrogen, nitrogen is sharing one electron. Okay, so I hope you have understood this. If there will be only one electron, if each element or each atom is sharing one electron, at that time the bond which will form will be a single covalent bond. Okay, now next is double covalent bond. Double covalent bond means if there will be two pairs of electron. I have told you that one pair means two electron, right? Then two pair will be means, two pair means four electrons, right? So in double covalent bond, what will happen? Each atom will share two electrons. Okay, as you can see in the case of O2, when we discuss about the case of O2, you will see that this oxygen will share two electron, with this oxygen will also share two electron, and they will form a bond which is called double covalent bond. As you can see, two electrons, they are sharing two electrons, right? Here this two electron will form one bond, and this two electron will form one bond. In this way, this type of bond is called what? Double covalent bond. Okay, so I hope you have understood this. Right, now next is triple covalent bond. Again, when we talk about the triple covalent bond, what I have told you, there will be a three pair of electrons. Okay, the sharing of three pair of electrons, means three pair means six electrons. Okay, so one example is given there. Very best example is nitrogen. What they will do, they will share one, two, and three pairs of electron each. Okay, so as you can see, this nitrogen is sharing 1 2 3 4 5 6, right? Three each, means they will form like this, 1 2 and 3. So this is called what? Triple covalent bond. Okay, so I hope you have understood about what is single covalent bond, double covalent bond, and triple covalent bond. Right, now next is what? Next category is polar and non-polar covalent bond. Okay, there are some of the examples given. You can see this. Okay, these are some of the example of double, single, double, and triple covalent bond. Okay, now next one is covalency. So when we talk about the covalency, what is covalency? So always remember that covalency will of an atom will be the number of electrons taking part in the formation of shared pairs. Okay, or we can say that covalency of an atom is the number of its electron taking part in the formation of shared pair. Thus, the covalency of hydrogen is 1, oxygen is 2, nitrogen is 3, and carbon is 4. Means what? How many electrons the a particular element is sharing will be its covalency. Okay. Now, next type of covalent bond is what? Polar and non-polar covalent bond. Okay, so what is non-polar covalent bond? Non-polar covalent bond are those covalent bond in which the shared pair of electrons are equally distributed between the two molecules. Okay, non-polar covalent bond means what? Suppose this is the hydrogen and this is the hydrogen, they are forming a covalent bond here. So when we see the distribution of electrons between this hydrogen and this hydrogen, if the distribution of electron is equal, then the bond which is formed between these two hydrogen is called what? Non-polar covalent bond. Okay, as you can see, covalent compound are non-polar when shared pair of electrons is equally distributed between the two atoms. Okay, no charge separation take place, the molecule is symmetrical and electrically neutral. Means what? If the shared pair of electron between the elements or between the atoms is equal, or we can say that there is an equal distribution of electrons between the two atoms, and if there is no charge separation, then that type of element is called what? Non-polar. That type of bond is called non-polar covalent bond. You can see the example of some of the non-polar covalent bond is H2 Cl2 O2 etc. H2 like this, Cl2 and O2 like this. Okay, so these are some of the example of polar non-polar covalent bond where the distribution of electrons between the two atoms is equal. Okay, as you can see, some of the one definition is also given. The covalent compound are said to be polar. Now when we talk about the polar, when the shared pair of electrons is not equally distributed between the two atoms. Means what? Suppose we take an example, some of the example, if we are taking the example of suppose HCl or any other. So at that time what will happen? There will be the distribution of electrons between the two atoms will not be equal. Okay, so at that time what will happen? The electron which is present between the two atoms will be we can say like this, will be there will not be any equal distribution of electrons, right? So at that time they will form non-polar covalent bond. Means what? We will understand from here. The covalent compound are said to be polar when the shared pair of electrons are not equally not are not at equal distance between the two atoms. Okay, now this result in the development of a frictional positive and negative charge on them, and they ionize in water. For example of hydrogen chloride, I have told you, right? Suppose this is the hydrogen and this is chlorine. Now what will happen? This concept you will learn more clearly in class 11 and 12. Since the electronegativity, we will learn about this, the electronegativity of chlorine is more than hydrogen, then what will happen? The electron which is shared between this, one electron is sharing chlorine, right? And one electron is shared by hydrogen. So what will happen? The distribution, when we will see the distribution of electron, this will be more towards the chlorine, right? So this type of bond, when the distribution of electron will be more towards the chlorine, at that time there will be a partial negative charge on chlorine and partial positive charge on hydrogen. So at that this type of bond in which there is a charge separation, means there is the charge on the atom, there is a difference in the charge. Okay, so at that time that type of bond is called what? Polar covalent bond. Example is HCl. Okay, some of the example is, sorry, HCl, and we can take ammonia molecule. Okay, or carbon tetra or you can say the example of ammonia. Yes, ammonia molecules. So I hope you have understood this, right? And water molecules, because you know, right, when we talk about H2O, at that time you will see the like this structure is there. Water, the structure of water is like this. O here, and one hydrogen is here, one hydrogen is here. Okay, so when you will see the distribution of suppose between these two, between this hydrogen and this hydrogen, this oxygen, if we are talking about, then the distribution of electron is this, right? So the electron will be more towards oxygen. Okay, and because of that what will happen? There will be a partial positive charge on hydrogen and partial negative charge on oxygen. So this type of bond is called what? This is called polar covalent bond. Here also same thing, partial positive charge here and partial negative charge here. This type of bond is called what? Non-polar polar covalent bond, right? So I hope you have understood about what is polar covalent bond and non-polar covalent bond. So here some of the example is given, you read it. Okay, there are so many examples are given, you can see here, right? Now we will see next is the properties of covalent compound. So when we talk about the properties of covalent compound, so we will see that covalent compounds are made up of molecules. Okay, first is what? The covalent compounds are made up of molecules. Okay, and they are either gaseous, liquid or soft solid. Okay, next, reason is that they have a weak force of attraction between the molecules. That is why they are either gases, liquid, or soft solid. Okay, next is what these compounds are volatile. I hope you know that, right? These compounds are volatile with low boiling and melting point. Okay, because why there is a low boiling and melting point? The same reason, they have a weak force of attraction between the binding molecules. Thus the less energy is required to break the bond, break the force of bonding. Okay, we can easily break the covalent bond. That is why the melting point and boiling point of covalent compounds are weak, okay, or low. Next is they are non-conductor of electricity. Why? Because either in a molten state or in an aqueous state, they will not conduct electricity. Why? Because they do not have free ions, or we can say they do not have a mobile electrons, or we can say that they do not have a free electrons. Okay, that is why they are non-conductor of electricity in solid, molten, or aqueous state. Okay, now what is the reason? Since there is an absence of free ions or free electron, that are the responsibility, these are the responsible to carry electric charge. Okay, so they are non-conductor of electricity because they do not have a free electrons. Okay, in either in an aqueous solution or in a molten state. Okay, now next is on passing electric current. On passing electric current, the non-polar covalent compound do not ionize. They do not ionize, right? So if they are not ionizing, means they will not conduct electricity. Okay, so since they are not, and they do not ionize, some of the covalent compound are polar in nature, so they ionize in their solution and act as an electrolytes. Means what? If we are taking a covalent compound which are polar in nature, right? The polar covalent bond we have discussed, right? So if we are taking a compound which are we are taking a covalent compound which are polar in nature, so what they will do, they will easily ionize, okay, in their solution, and they will act as an electrolyte. As the example of HCl is given, right? Now what is the reason is what this covalent compound do not have ions. Okay, and polar covalent molecules form ions in their solution. Means what? Covalent compound do not have ions, right? But when we talk about the polar covalent molecules, we have discussed about this. So polar covalent molecules forms ions in their solution. Okay, now next is they are insoluble in water but dissolve in organic solvent. They are insoluble in water. We cannot solubilize, or we cannot it is insoluble in water. Okay, and it is soluble in organic solvent, right? What is the reason is as the organic compound are non-polar. Okay, organic solvent is what they are. Organic solvent is non-polar, hence this compound dissolve in non-polar covalent compound. We know that polar dissolve polar, okay, like dissolve like, polar dissolve polar, and non-polar dissolve non-polar solvent. Okay, so always remember that like dissolve like. Okay, like dissolve like, and non-polar dissolve non-polar. Okay, so that is why, as the organic solvent is what, organic solvent are is non-polar, right? So this compound dissolve in non-polar covalent. Okay, so I hope you have understood this chapter. Okay, so try to do this exercise 4e. So today we have completed this chapter. Now next chapter, we will from the next class we will start the periodic table. Okay, till that, thank you.